sant yàlla.
looy xaar utal Wave nga scan nga fay te nag doo ci yokku dara.
Jar Oil, the company, have filling stations across the country, and our rates are relatively cheaper than anyone else across the country. Jar Oil is the biggest producer and distributor of cement in the country with the most competitive prices in the market.
In the Gambia, we all move to different paces. Time is money, convenience is power, and now both are in your hands. No more long lines, no more late payments, no more missed chances. Not anymore. Because now the Gambia has its own super app, Zap. One app, one tap, endless convenience. Send money instantly, pay your bills in seconds, shop without borders, pay your rides, order your meal, buy your ticket, deposit and withdraw money for absolutely free. No extra charges, no hidden fees, only on Zap Super App. This is not just convenience. This is confidence. This is the future in your hands. And the best part, Zap is born right here. Built for us, designed for every Gambian home, every Gambian dream. So don't wait in the past. Step into the future. Download Zap today on App Store and Play Store and enjoy endless free services. Call us today on our toll-free number 1666 or on 260-0001. Zap, all in one, all for you. Tap in, zap in.
Monday, the 16th of February, 2026, and you're with Coffee Time with Peter Gomez. We thank Aji Jacob Khan for the first hour. We're now joined by Talib Ahmed Bensouda, the mayor of Kanifing Municipality, also leader of the newly launched Unite Movement for Change, having broken ranks with the main opposition party, the United Democratic Party, UDP. Bensouda has called for a reset in Gambian politics, urging President Barrow to step aside later this year and positioning himself, Talib that is, as a generational alternative. From bold municipal reforms in waste management and digital governance to his national ambitions, he's become one of the most talked about figures in the country's political landscape, no doubt. So he joins us this morning to explore his record, his vision, and what his rise means for the future of the Gambia. Talib, thanks for coming back to Coffee Time with Peter Gomez.
Thank you, Uncle
Good
Peter.
to see you.
Good to see you.
Looks like, forming a new party, as they say in Wall of Jignala. You look healthier. Although I thought you'd have more sleepless nights with a new political party on top of the problems of KM.
Absolutely. Well, I wouldn't say sleepless nights. I'd say more work. But I do sleep very well because now we are focused on what we need to do. And there's a clear sense of direction.
Okay.
But before we go further, let me just say happy belated birthday.
Oh, thank you.
I was not invited to the party.
Oh, thank you. I'm surprised that you remember. Or did Tombon just whisper that?
No, I remember. I have a diary. Uncle Peter's birthday.
No, thank you so very much.
Thank you.
So, I mean, how have you been able to, balance the two? Running the council,
right,
as you were elected to do,
right,
and trying to, babysit this new party, UMC.
Well, one thing I've been able to do over the years is build systems. That's the same way I could leave my company and be mayor of KMC. It's still running today, it's still doing well. So it's similar. I believe in building administrative structures, systems of operation, and of course empowering people and giving them that trust. Without responsibility, there can't be any accountability. I firmly believe in that. That's why I've been advocating for decentralization of local governance. So one person cannot do it. You can only, as a leader, show a clear sense of direction. You can motivate, you empower, but you allow people to do their jobs and have responsibility.
Yeah, and you're not the micromanaging kind.
I'm not. I'm absolutely not.
Some people are really hard to please. They feel that unless they, have the final say as to how you do things, they'll never be done right.
Right, and you can't. Like I said, I don't believe in powerful I believe in powerful institutions, you know. So I believe in delegation. I believe in giving responsibility. I also believe in democratic governance, where it takes many to run an institution. So the council is largely led by committees, you know. So I've set up good committees, empowered them with both councillors and, you know, subject matter specialists from the citizenry, and then I allow them to exercise oversight on the administration.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
And knowing how things work in this country, I mean,
Right.
you've said that this is your absolute last time
Absolutely, yeah.
serving as mayor of
Yes.
KMC. Now, there's no doubt you've brought in a lot of positive changes,
Right.
To council.
Right.
Knowing what how things happen in this country, once a new person comes in, they put everything aside, good as well as bad aside, to start all over again. Do you fear that were that to happen in the case of KMC, that the municipality would be taking, steps back?
Well, I hope not. We've certainly focused on, giving the administration, more power. We've focused on basically building checks and balances within the system, changing the culture of the way things are being done. Of course, if there's a deliberate attempt to reverse those gains, we can't stop it. But to institutionalize some of the things we have brought in place would have only been possible if we had governance power. And this is why we were talking about decentralization a lot. But I do believe that the good legacy we have and the population has benefited from the changes and transformations we have brought forward. I think it would be really difficult for a political leader to do less better than we have, because the citizens have gotten used to a certain standard of service and they expect more. And they've been exposed to the fact that local government entities can deliver. So if somebody tries to reverse that, it would be at their own detriment.
Okay, all right. Listen, in the past few weeks, we've talked about two main things emanating from the one main source, the CEPRAS polls. What it says about, the main political players,
right,
and also about, the president running for a third term.
Right.
So we are told that Gambians are divided, Gambian voters, we are divided, with no single candidate commanding overwhelming support.
Right.
Do you see this fragmentation as an opportunity for your UMC?
Not just for my UMC, but for the opposition. I think when 2/3 of the country say they
When we
won't...
talk about the opposition as
Right.
one unitary...
Right, well, certainly for the UMC, but basically I want to talk about, the possibility of collaboration and of course the possibility of going it alone. It's all very likely. Nobody knows, it's too early. But of course, we always advocate for partnerships. I, for one, all my life, I've believed in partnerships. I believe in, like I said, bringing people together, making a collective effort. And that's the only way to run a country. So basically, what the CEPRAS survey shows is people don't want the president to go for a third term. People also don't want to vote for the president. 2/3 say no. 34% said they would, meaning 66% won't. So there's a huge opportunity for the opposition. And, same as UMC. What we are advocating for as a movement is, first of all, let's look at the possibility of alignment based on values and principles. I don't believe that one should focus on coming together just to remove a leader. That makes absolutely no sense.
Why is that a problem?
Because removing a leader, I don't think should be the goal. I think the goal should be how to govern the country correctly, how to transform this country, how to bring better leadership. And meaning to do that, there must be an alignment of values, principles, and vision.
Was there a precedent before?
Sorry?
Was there a precedent before?
Yes, there's a precedent in 2016, although I always say I would always vote for Adama Barrow because of what we were dealing with at the time, meaning in 2016. Yes. If I could take back the hands of time, I would still vote for President Barrow, because at the time we were facing authoritarian regime. There was a lot of disappearances. People were jailed for opposing. Gambians were living in trauma. So it was a necessary thing to do at the time. But I believe generally, as a matter of principle, you should not, just vote somebody out. You should vote somebody in. So in a
so
place.
In 2016, we voted Jammeh out, not necessarily vote President.
Yes, we voted Jammeh out. I think Adama Barrow knows that. President Barrow, he knows that. He knows that. He knows that we voted Jammeh out. Nobody voted President Barrow in because we didn't know him.
We would have got rid of him in 2021 if that were the case.
Well, no. What I'm saying basically is this is the principle of coalitions, right? So I believe when you're forming a unified front, it should be based on a positive value and you're not based on a negative issue. So, 2016 was out of desperation, of course, but now in 2026, everybody agrees for the most part.
2021. So why did Barrow remain in office in 2021?
Well, he won the election. He won the election. Okay, Gambians decided to.
You accept he won.
I accept. I've never denied that.
Part of the party.
Well, I never did. Go back in the record. KMC was one of the institutions that congratulated President Barrow. I was never one to deny that he won that election. I believe that there were certain things done in the registration of voters that were, basically illegal. Meaning registering people who are not eligible to vote, including, foreign nationals, including underage participants. However, I believe for the most part, as far as the election is concerned, he did win. So I don't deny it. What is important now is how do we move the country forward? Most Gambians agree that even though Barrow was given a second chance, the reforms he was voted in originally in 2016 have not been enacted on. That is the Constitutional Review Commission, the civil reforms, the defense sector was not reformed, etc.
The Constitutional Review Commission,
yeah.
the outcome.
The outcome, yes. We did not get a new constitution.
Constitutional Review Commission.
Yes, so they didn't act on the commission's outcome. They did not do the civil sector reform, the security sector reform. So reforms were not done. So that is number one. Number two, one of the main issues is productivity, youth employment, etc. So on many factors, he has not done well. That's why I have said, I think a few weeks ago, President Barrow has delivered to a certain degree on infrastructure, right? We can't deny it. We see it. We feel it. We run on the roads. But as far as governance, he's done.
These are necessary infrastructure.
And they're necessary. I believe in constructive criticism and being truthful when opposing. The fact of the matter is, though, a third term should be a no-go area for any regime that wishes to stay democratic.
Well, he's bent on going.
Exactly, and that's a negative thing. President Barrow first ran on 3 years, right? And then they were working on a 2-term limit in the Constitution. Then he wanted a retroactive clause that allowed him to do 15 years. But this is a bad precedent. And, I keep warning both him and, voters. It's a
Clearly
bad.
He's not listening to you.
Clearly he's not. But I will keep voicing my opinion because that's what I should do.
You think he cares?
I think he's concerned. I think it might be lack of a choice as far as he sees. We've heard him say on interview that the reason he's running for a third term is because he wants to keep his party intact. His party is young, and he believes if he doesn't run for a third term, his party would divide or collapse. He said that.
He can easily bring in the vice president.
Exactly, that's what I've been saying. So
if the vice president can represent him everywhere.
Exactly. So basically, it's a terrible precedent to set, especially after the change, because we thought 2016 would be a reset of governance. President Jawara did 30 plus years, President Jammeh did 22 years, and all of them left unceremoniously. And we had to start again.
Listen, if Barrow wants to do 15, gradually we're getting there. With somebody who did 30,
well, it never stops.
So I'll give Barrow 15.
No, so the arguments will continue, and you can sign this today and keep the record. If at all, if President Barrow happened to win 2026 election, he would seek another term. because the same conditions are there. It never stops. The same perpetrators will be there. The same people advocating will be there. So what I'm saying to President Barrow is seal your legacy. Don't even attempt. Even if you attempt and lose, it's still the same bad president. You don't leave a good legacy because you tried. We've seen it with Abdoulaye Wade. He tried and he failed. We've seen it in Macky Sall. He tried to a pseudo candidate and he failed. It's expressing the intent, which is wrong in the first place and not principle, based on democratic principles. So basically, I am advocating do the right thing. You know, step down, pick somebody in your party. You have many ministers. You have a vice president. You have people who are even more educated than President Barrow within his cabinet. They could do it. I mean, let them exercise a primary. You know, that's the best way to safeguard.
So suggest that he doesn't have men to, you know, to keep the.
That's what they're suggesting.
Going,
that's what they're suggesting, which is troubling. So I mean, how can you have an entire government and
so that's just
nobody?
An excuse as far as you're concerned.
It's an excuse. It's an excuse. I mean, you host ministers here every day. They articulate. They talk about policy issues. You know, they talk about problems of the country. Not that we agree with them, but at least there's that capacity.
And
so
nearly all of them are attack dogs, meaning that these people are strong enough to, you know, to speak for the party, speak for you, and all.
Well, it's about the country. I think political parties should always remember they're there because of the country. If there was no country, there would be no political party. That's why I always used to say, I am loyal to my country first, before party. Then party before individual.
What about him? What do you think? Is he loyal to his party?
Well, I think President Barrow is loyal to himself. Because he said it. He said, they asked him, why are you running for a third term? To be honest, I expected him to say, I'm running for a third term because I've started projects I want to finish, or I believe the work is still left. But his immediate response, which seemed very genuine, is, I don't want my party to collapse. It's too young, you know. And I think he was just speaking about himself, about potentially that he wants to protect himself, you know, in the future, because that's the only reason you feel that you should run.
Okay. Let's go back to the Separatist poll, which highlights a hunger for younger leadership.
Right.
Do you think the Gambia is ready to entrust the presidency to a younger generation?
So when people say younger, because Gambia has had young presidents since 1965.
The young seized power.
President Jammeh was young. Sorry, President Jawara was young when he became president. So when they say younger, because I'm quite confused. So in Gambia, when they say young, sometimes you think they're talking about 50s, sometimes they talk about 40s, sometimes they talk about 20s. What would young mean in terms of age?
Lower than 50.
You believe, okay, lower than 50.
Yes.
Yeah, so, you know, I believe that Gambia's population, for the most part, is young. It's 60 to 70% young people.
That's why we're thinking,
so,
you know.
Yeah,
but
so
is that a young population ready, you know, to put in somebody as young as Talib?
Well, that's what I'm saying.
The irony is they constitute the greater part of the voting population.
Right.
Yeah, they are responsible for putting, you know, I mean...
So that's why I repeat President Jawara and Jammeh. I'm older than both when they were vying for office. I'm 40 this year, you know. So, and I'm a two-term mayor. I'm not just any young person. I have run local governance for 10 years and won elections twice based on my merit. One, of course, with the president, one against the president.
Two things there. You have demonstrated electability.
Right.
All right. And two, you have experience.
Of course.
Neither of which Barrow had.
No president had.
When he was coming in.
No president had. There's no Gambian president who had governance experience and who had won elections at a local level before they became president. I would be the first if I...
this stands you...
Of course. I mean, look at many countries we feel that, you know, are progressive or are developed. You know, today look at Turkey. You know, Erdogan was the mayor of Istanbul. You know, you look at in the US government, people become mayors, they become senators, they become governors before they run for higher office. I believe that experience, you know, is needed. You know, that capacity is built over time. The learning curve is a lot smaller. So basically, I believe when people say they're ready for young leadership, it's a representation first of the population. But secondly, I don't like the word because age should not be an issue. What should be an issue more than age is one's capacity and experience, and one's reputation. Those are the issues that are more important. Your character, your reputation, your capacity, that, speaks to your ability to run a country. And I believe, I'm the only one out of the rest. Yeah.
You've been crisscrossing the country, campaigning. This is a very strong message.
Right.
Do you feel that you've been able to articulate, this point, strongly enough for your audience to understand? Well, start, maybe, changing their decisions?
We're crafting our campaign message. As we speak, we are fine-tuning our manifesto. On Wednesday will be our first reading. We are building from scratch. We are structuring, we are getting people on board. But soon enough, we'll be ready to launch and we'll be pushing our messages across, and this is one of the messages.
Mm-hmm. And, how far with registration? You've deposited your documents with the IEC. Have you heard from them yet?
Yes, we've heard from them. So there's a few things we need to fine-tune. But like I said, I've always said, we're
Is this mainly in the area of signatures?
Well, it's several areas.
Signatures one of them?
Signatures.
Because most parties seem to have this problem. There'll be a Peter Gomez who first aligned with UMC, and further down the line they are with Progress. And
no. For us, most of our issues are based on errors in terms of filling out the forms. Like, for example, instead of putting Canifing, you put KMC.
Oh, okay.
All right. So instead of putting Unite, which is the party we're registered, you put UMC.
Oh, okay.
So these are errors, but it's a consultative process.
I also hear, when you hear people, mispronounce the name, Unite Movement for Change.
Yeah, so Unite.
I hear people say United Movement for Change.
Yes, so
grammatically speaking, grammatically speaking, is not wrong.
Well, it's not wrong, but remember, Unite is a noun, is not a verb.
Yeah, but I'm saying United Movement for Change.
Yes.
Meaning a movement that is united in everything.
So that's where people
geared towards change.
So that's where people get it wrong. So Unite is the name of the party we're registering. So Unite is an acronym. So it's Unite-Movement for Change. So Unite is the name of the movement.
Okay.
Right. So it's called Unite.
I'm learning something new today.
So it's Unite for Nation, Integrity, Transformation, Equality. That's the name of the party.
Okay.
Right. So Unite is an acronym. It's a movement for change.
Okay. All right. That's clear. So we now know United cannot be correct in any context as far as this one is concerned. Right. But do you hear United Movement for Change?
Well, some of our long-term members. Well, long term, I mean 4 months.
Exactly. I was going to say.
They get a slip of tongue and they say United. But it's okay.
Yeah. Well, this United is better than the other United in the English Premier League anyway, so I would rather go along with this one.
Much better.
Absolutely. And in terms of, reaching out, to grassroots, looking for grassroots support and all of that, how is that going?
Terrific. I mean, we had Congress in every region on Saturday and Sunday across the country. We've had hundreds of participants come out in regions to select regional leaders. So it's unprecedented for movement, and the participation has been amazing. I mean, you see some of the photos, your hair stands on, you get goosebumps, So basically we've selected about 200 plus regional leaders who will be now leading politics in their respective regions. By now, every region now we have bureaus. So we are structuring. We're doing very well. We're moving very fast.
That's interesting because a politician sat where you are now sat and said, apart from the UDP, no other party in this country has, a representation in all the regions and districts.
Well, maybe when they were saying that, because we concluded yesterday. Okay. So we ran our regional congresses on Saturday and Sunday. But by now we have representation in 1,200 villages out of 1,900. By next 3 months, we would have had, structures in every village, every ward, every constituency, and every region in this country. Mm-hmm.
And who do you think you are taking? You are taking support away from mainly.
Well, we are not monitoring, so I don't believe in cross-carpeting, so
But you need that.
Well,
I mean,
so
Unite Movement for Change wasn't there 4 months ago.
Right.
I mean, practically every Gambian who votes, all right, aligns with a party or.
Well, look at it this way. I think there's 3 types of voters. I think there's the member, die-hard member of a party. That's one. I think there's a sympathizer, and I think there's just the regular person, who votes based on the candidates presented at election. And
I think I would fall in that last category.
Yes, and majority of Gambians fall in that last category. So I've been, of course, in this game for a while. I've been studying.
It's amazing. Somebody who's only 40 tells I've been in this game for a while.
Yeah, I started in 28.
only in the Gambia.
I started in 28.
No, seriously, I mean, that's a big positive that you have, over the others. So we're talking about, these 3 categories of voters. Something I didn't know before.
Right. But look at the separate survey talks about it, right? So when they ask people, who would you vote for? About 40% they didn't know. You go back to the survey. There's some that refused to answer. There's some that said they didn't know. But if you combine those, they are more than both, the NPP and UDP and all other parties combined. So I think if you go down back in the day, even look at all the surveys, it's the same. So in 2021, one of the reasons President Barrow won is because for the most part, a large number of these independents preferred him to the UDP. So basically, these are the different categories of voters. So UMC, of course, has a huge opportunity because still a large portion, or more than 50% of Gambians would not vote for the president or the opposition. Secondly, there's the sympathizers. People who feel a closeness to a certain party but are not entirely members or even loyal. You might vote for them because a family member is a participant or an executive. You might vote for them because a friend convinced you.
That's how I voted in 1982, the first time I cast a ballot.
Exactly.
I don't know if you ever heard of Jibujang.
Yes, of course, we've heard of him.
Yeah, because I grew up with his children, his nephews and nieces, and basically it was Jibujang, not necessarily NCP then.
Right. So arguably, if you combine independent voters who don't have any loyalty, affinity, or closeness to any party and would vote on candidates, and you add sympathizers, I think you're talking about 60 to 70% of the Gambian voter. If you count the amount of people going to rallies, which are usually the die-hard supporters, the biggest rally in Gambia, right now President Barrow holds the biggest rallies because he has
does he?
Resources.
I thought that was UDP.
Well, no, it's I was the organizing secretary. In 2021, definitely UDP had the biggest rallies. But last year to now, President Barrow does. Because he draws people from all over the country. The resources are there.
That's what he does.
Of course, like you look at the Sukota rally, for example. We have our people on the ground. You look at the Sukota rally, people came all the way from Basse.
Bustin.
Basse.
Yeah, I'm saying bustin from Basse.
Yeah.
Put on board buses and brought all the way down.
So usually only a committed member would do that. All right? Unless otherwise they were incentivized. But in real terms, a committed
What does incentivize mean?
Maybe giving 200, 300 to attend a rally. So that also happens.
I need to be incentivized.
Right. So basically, when you look at those rallies, and there's software that count crowd, satellite software. Sometimes we use it to determine. I use it. Yeah. So you look at a rally.
You are that ready, UMC. Goodness me.
So you look at a rally like that, not more than 10,000 people, right? But the amount of voters in this country are.
So when we hear ministers go there and say, "Oh, over 25,000 people came,"
at all.
You're saying they'll.
At all.
They'll do well to assemble 10,000.
At all, yeah. You cannot. I mean, to bring 10,000 people, that is an estimate of, let's say, somewhere around 500 to 600 gilligilis. Right, that's a lot of vehicles.
So you journalists who go out there and just throw figures around based on, politician quotes and all of that.
Yeah, I was an organizing secretary. I mean, you look at a gilligili 20-seater, 500 of that is 10,000 people, So basically, those are committed. My point is those are committed supporters. When you actually count the amount of people who are really committed to the point of going to rallies, they are committed members. In the Gambian voter landscape, it's not more than 200,000 across all parties.
All right.
So most of the other people are sympathizers or they are independents.
Okay.
So your ability to attract independents is very important in Gambian politics.
Okay.
Yeah.